A lot of people enjoy traveling solo without worrying that something bad could happen. The main perks are the total freedom to do whatever you want, the ability to quickly adjust plans, and the rare chance to spend time alone with your own thoughts and feelings. However, alongside these benefits, there are also plenty of risks, especially for women who decide to take solo trips. The tragic story of Maria Luisa Sedino, which happened in 2020 in Costa Rica, shocked the entire country and later made headlines internationally. The case drew widespread attention because it occurred at an expensive hotel in a popular resort area, and the victim was a well-known doctor who headed the anesthesiology department at one of the country's largest medical centers. Maria Luisa Sedino was born on May 29, 1977, in La Fortuna, San Carlos, in the province of Alajuela, Costa Rica. She was the youngest of 5 children in a modest family. Her relatives were all simple workers with no education beyond what they got in school. From a young age, Maria Luisa was ambitious and very determined. She wanted to help others and dreamed of becoming a doctor, promising herself she'd be the first in her family to get a college degree. In school, her favorite subjects were chemistry and biology, and after graduating in 1994, she was accepted into medical school at the most prestigious university in the country, located in San Jose. As a student, Maria Luisa moved to the capital and stayed there for the rest of her life, though she kept close ties with her family, regularly visiting and staying in touch with them. In 2000, after completing her degree, she started working as an anesthesiologist at one of the largest medical centers in the capital. She quickly advanced in her career, constantly learning and improving her skills. By 2015, Sedino had become the head of the anesthesiology and recovery therapy department. She was loved and respected by her colleagues and became quite a prominent doctor, though she achieved all this by sacrificing her personal life. For a long time, Maria Luisa was alone and completely devoted to her work. In 2017, when she was 40, she started a romantic relationship with a doctor from the same hospital, although he worked in a different department. She believed he was the love of her life, someone she could build a strong and happy family with. However, at the beginning of 2020, the couple broke up because he started seeing a younger colleague. For Maria Luisa, the breakup was a devastating blow. She fell into a deep depression and buried herself in work for months, barely noticing anything around her. Her only comfort was her little dog, Mufti, whom she treated like her child. In July 2020, Maria Luisa decided she desperately needed a break and a change of scenery before she lost her mind. At the time, the COVID-19 pandemic was spreading worldwide, and various restrictions were in place to slow the virus. She chose to head to the coast and stay at a small but cozy hotel called La Mansion Inn, located in the scenic Puntarenas. This resort is usually popular with tourists from all over the world, but with the pandemic and strict lockdowns, it was almost deserted. At the hotel where she checked in, only a few rooms were occupied. However, the peace and quiet were exactly what she was looking for. Maria Luisa planned to spend the weekend there and head home on Monday. She brought along her beloved dog, Mufti. She stayed in a ground-floor room that had a second door leading to a private courtyard. These rooms were designed for travelers with pets so that the animals could go outside and take care of their business in a designated area. All the other rooms with courtyard access were empty at the time. On July 18, Maria Luisa checked in, dropped off her things, and headed to the beach. The next day passed just as quietly. She strolled along the shore, sunbathed, had dinner at the restaurant, and then went back to her room. She called her mother, and they talked for about half an hour. Maria Luisa mentioned how empty the hotel was, with only a few staff members, most of whom were juggling multiple jobs. She planned to check out the next morning after breakfast, but she never made it that far. On the morning of July 20th, Maria Luisa didn't show up for breakfast. The hotel staff noticed this because there were so few guests, but they didn't think much of it, assuming she was just sleeping in before heading home. But when checkout time came and she still hadn't appeared, they decided to check her room. 2 staff members knocked on Maria Luisa's door, but there was no answer. They could hear her dog barking inside, so they knew she had to be there. They kept knocking and calling her name, but the only response was the barking. So they went around to the courtyard to see if they could reach her that way. The second door was unlocked, and the staff decided to enter to make sure everything was okay. As soon as they stepped inside, they noticed brownish stains on the floor that looked like dried blood, and on the bed, they found a body wrapped in a sheet. The hotel staff immediately called emergency services and informed the management. Unfortunately, the paramedics could only confirm that Maria Luisa was dead. She had been killed several hours before her body was found. Everything about the scene was strange, from the condition of the room to the circumstances of her death. The investigation into Maria Luisa's murder revealed disturbing details. Her body showed multiple cuts, bruises, and bite marks left by different people, with defensive wounds on her hands indicating she had fought back fiercely. The cause of death was mechanical asphyxia and a broken neck, suggesting she had been strangled so hard that her cervical vertebrae were fractured. An autopsy revealed that she had also been sexually assaulted before her death. Next to her bed, investigators found a bottle of mineral water, an open bottle of expensive wine, and 2 glasses. According to the maid, Maria Luisa had ordered these items the night before but had been alone. Records of her key card showed she didn't leave her room after receiving the delivery, and no one entered through the door. However, the glass door to the courtyard didn't require a key, suggesting the attacker could have entered that way. Unfortunately, the hotel's security cameras, which could have provided critical evidence, had been shut off due to cost-cutting measures during the pandemic. Forensic experts tested the bite marks on Maria Luisa's body for DNA but were shocked to find that the saliva in the wounds was her own. Since the bite marks were on her face, neck, and chest, places she couldn't physically reach, investigators concluded that the killer had intentionally stained the wounds with her saliva to cover his tracks. The pathologist further revealed that her body had been thoroughly washed after her death, meaning the perpetrator had cleaned her before laying her on the bed, staining the wounds with her saliva, and wrapping her in a sheet. With no witnesses, since the hotel was almost empty due to the pandemic, the investigation began with few leads. The first suspect was 38-year-old hotel employee Theodore Herrera Martinez, whose father was a longtime friend of the hotel's owner. Martinez, who worked as a bartender and did errands for the owner, became the focus after Maria Luisa's mother recalled that her daughter had mentioned chatting with a man at the hotel. During his police interview, Martinez acted nervously and denied remembering Maria Luisa. Fresh scratches were visible on his cheeks and neck, which he couldn't explain, and when he was asked to remove his shirt, similar scratches were found on his chest and shoulders, suggesting Maria Luisa had scratched him while fighting for her life. Forensics confirmed that blood and skin particles from Martinez were found under her nails, but the bite marks on her body didn't match his dental impressions. As a result, the investigation continued, and another man, 36-year-old Luis Carlos Miranda, came into focus. Miranda wasn't a regular guest or employee but was a friend of the hotel owner, which allowed him to stay at the hotel for free. One of the bite marks on the victim's body could have been made by Luis Carlos Miranda, but it wasn't clear enough to be certain. Still, the police arrested him as a second suspect for 6 months, just like Martinez. Miranda also denied ever seeing Maria Luisa or having any contact with her. About a week and a half after the murder, a third suspect was arrested, Harry Bowden, the 69-year-old hotel owner. Bowden, a Dutch businessman with extensive political and entrepreneurial connections, owned several properties worldwide. His arrest was prompted by the discovery that one of the bite marks on Maria Luisa's body matched his dental impressions. 6 months before the murder, Bowden had undergone surgery at the hospital where Maria Luisa worked. Despite Bowden's insistence that he had never seen the victim before, police believed he might have noticed her at the hospital, taken her contact information, and lured her to his hotel. Initially placed under house arrest due to his age and health issues, Bowden was later taken into custody after changing his residence without notifying the police, raising fears he might try to flee the country. Bowden's young husband, Yatter Daniel Abanda, was also questioned, but no evidence linked him to the crime. He claimed that Bowden was unwell that night and did not leave their room. Investigators theorized that 3 attackers were involved in Maria Luisa's murder. There were no signs of ropes or restraints, but bruises on her limbs suggested she had been held down by hand. Fabric fibers and thread found in her mouth indicated she had been gagged, likely preventing her from screaming. Messages on her phone revealed she had been enjoying her stay at the hotel, even mentioning that she had spent the evening chatting and dancing with Martinez, who served coffee and looked after the property. Martinez remained the prime suspect, as his skin and blood were found under Maria Luisa's fingernails, and his biological material was found in her body, despite attempts to wash it off. However, the bite marks on her body didn't match his teeth. Investigators believed the attackers entered through the courtyard door, which Maria Luisa may have left unlocked for her dog. After knocking her unconscious, they gagged, tortured, and assaulted her for hours before strangling her so violently that they broke her neck. They then washed her body, wrapped it in a sheet, and contaminated the bite marks with her saliva. All 3 suspects denied involvement in the crime, claiming they were asleep in their rooms that night, with only Bowden's husband offering a questionable alibi. However, strange text messages found on the suspects' phones revealed disturbing intimate fantasies shared the day before the murder. In September 2022, over 2 years after the murder, the public trial for 71-year-old Harry Bowden began, with him appearing in court in a wheelchair due to worsening knee problems. The prosecution faced difficulties proving Bowden and Luis Miranda's involvement, as most evidence was circumstantial, including text messages and dental impressions, which the defense argued should be dismissed because the bite marks weren't a perfect match. An orthodontist flown in by Bowden's lawyer claimed the bite marks were inconclusive, but his testimony was thrown out after it was revealed he wasn't properly accredited. Despite this, the prosecution struggled to prove multiple assailants were involved, with the defense arguing that one strong person could have committed the crime alone. The only undeniable evidence was against Teodor Herrera Martinez, whose DNA and skin particles were found on the victim, along with her blood on his shoes. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. Martinez claimed the encounter was consensual and denied involvement in the murder. However, due to lack of solid evidence, Bowden and Miranda were acquitted and released in March 2023. Shortly after their release, they fled Costa Rica and are now living in the Netherlands, beyond the reach of extradition. Even if found guilty in a reopened trial, they likely won't face punishment due to the lack of an extradition agreement between Costa Rica and the Netherlands. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking stories.